So now good morning students once again to you all. So we are going to start with the chapter Nelson Mandela Long Walk to Freedom. Yesterday we have read about the chapter that how Nelson Mandela he has come out of the policy of apartheid. It was of course not easy for him. He has undergone various series of sacrifices. He has sacrificed his you can say personal life also. From a law-abiding criminal, he has changed into a man without any house, a family loving man. He was forced to live a life of a monk who should always be separated from his family. So it means that the journey from a common man to a common boy, then to the president of South Africa, and at that time when it was severely you can say punished to stand against the government, and he has stood against the government. Why he has stood against the government? Because he wanted an end to that policy of apartheid, right? So after that, as he has come to this end to this policy of apartheid, so he has at the end mentioned that there is not even a difference between the oppressed and the oppressor. The oppressed means the persons who are getting oppressed because of the brutalities, because of the atrocities of one or the other person. He is of course under burden. He is under the burden of slavery. He is under the burden that he is not free to he's not under you can say he's under the burden that he is not free to use his will. Moreover, his freedom is curtailed. Okay, so he is limited, he's confined behind the bars. But apart from it, the oppressor, he is also not free. According to him, the oppressor who is exercising this oppression upon the oppressed, he is also not free. He is also you can say he is also confined, he is also limited, and moreover he is also under the burden of his narrow mindedness, of the prejudices that he has cultured in his mind only. Okay, so he is never liberated, he never wants to come out. If he wants to come out, his narrow mindedness will never let him to come out of it. So ultimately both the oppressed and the oppressor, they sail in the same boat. So with the conclusion of this, the chapter is ended here. Okay, so now let us discuss the question answers of the chapter. So I'm sharing with you the page, last page. So this we have studied that, 1 minute please. Yes. So this we have studied that how the oppressor and the oppressed, they are also under burden, right? So next afterwards, we are going to start with the discussion of the question answer. So here it is oral comprehension. Yesterday also of the page, you can say 21, I have discussed the question answers with you, right? So now let's proceed further. 1 minute, please. Let me admit the students, those who have entered now. Now, don't be late for the class. I'm again and again telling you. Okay. Now, the first question is, what twin obligations does Mandela mention? So, as you know that Mandela has mentioned about twin obligations. Okay? He has mentioned about twin obligations. Which two obligations he has mentioned? Okay, so he has mentioned about yes, he has mentioned about his obligation. Students are still entering. I don't know why they are entering late. Nothing. Just be on time, all of you, please. So now, twin obligations. One that is towards his family, he has talked about. The another one towards his country, towards his community. Okay, so Nelson Mandela, he has talked about his twin obligations. He has talked about these two obligations, that is the obligations to be fulfilled towards his country, towards his countrymen. He thought that if his countrymen would not be free, how can he feel himself to be free? Moreover, he also thought that it is really very difficult for him to admit this kind of situation in which his countrymen, they were living the life of the slaves, and he is living the life of a free man. This is really impossible for him. So this is the reason why he thought that his one obligation is towards his country and towards his countrymen. So the next obligation that he has talked about is towards his family, towards his parents, towards his children, towards his wife. Okay, so he also has to fulfill these obligations. It means towards his family, he has certain, you can say, responsibilities that he has to deliver. Okay, in order to perform his role as a man in complete. So this is the reason he said that when a man like him, he is to fulfill these two obligations, but he's never allowed to fulfill these two obligations. Why? Because of the discrimination that was being prevalent in South Africa at that time. It is just because of that reason, if he's trying to fulfill his obligation towards his country and community, he's not able to fulfill this. You can say he's not able to fulfill his duty towards his family, because if he is paying attention, if he is, you can say, prioritizing his, you can say, duty towards his country and community, he was forced to live a life of a monk. He was forced to live a life of seclusion. It is just because of this reason that he was telling that from a law-abiding attorney, he has changed into a criminal. From a family-loving man, he was forced to live a life of a monk. And with in order to attain dignity and self-respect, this has completely changed his life. It has transformed his life, and he from a young man, he has turned into a bold one. So this is the answer to the first question. Now afterwards, we are moving towards the next question. That is the second one, is what did being free mean to Mandela as a boy, as a student, and how does he contrast these transitory means changing freedoms with the basic and honorable freedoms? Yes, so it is very much clear from the chapter, as I have told you, that how his notion of freedom, it has changed with the change in his life. So how it has changed? So as a young boy, he thought that freedom is only to run in the fields, free to swim in the clear stream, and moreover, he is also free to roast maize under the stars, and also to ride the, you can say, broad backs of the slow moving bulls. So according to him, that was freedom when he was a young boy. Okay, but later on, when he has grown up, when he has entered into his boyhood, okay, at that moment he thought that the notion of freedom that he was having as a young child, it was just an illusion. Why it was an illusion? Because ultimately he thought that then again, you can say his hunger for freedom, it began. And he thought that it was not his freedom that he enjoyed as a young boy. He thought that going out, hanging out with his friends, to spend a night with his friends out, okay, and then to read whatever he wants, to watch whatever he wants, is actually freedom. And later on, when he has grown up into an adult, okay, so at that time also, what has happened, he thought that his freedom has altogether changed. Why his freedom has altogether changed? It is because of the reason he thought that when in Johannesburg he was struggling to achieve his job according to his potential. That was of course difficult for him to, that was really very difficult for him to attain this kind of, you can say, potentiality in his job also. And again, he has to face problem in marrying, okay, marrying the girl of his choice. So ultimately, this was, he thought that whatever freedom he was thinking, his freedom, it has been curtailed, it has been taken away, it has been ripped away from him. It was not his freedom that he enjoyed. So at that moment, he has come to know to this point also, that it was not only the freedom of him, or his, it is not only his freedom that has been curtailed, but actually what it was the freedom of his, you can say, of his brothers and sisters too, which has been taken away from him. So it is just because of the reason he thought at that moment, he thought that he should join African National Congress, and that moment he has joined. So this is how his notion of freedom has altogether changed, and there was a transitory phases of thinking about freedom. And I hope that it is clear to you. Okay, so the third question is, next question is, does Mandela think the oppressor is free? Why or why not? So in the starting of this today's lecture, I have laid stress upon this point that oppressor is not also not free. He is also under the burden of his narrow-mindedness. He is also a prisoner of his own hatred. He was thinking himself to be free, but he is never able to come out of that narrow-mindedness. Why he is not able to come out of that narrow-mindedness? It is just because of the reason that he was trying to free himself, okay, from prejudices, but it is not so. So both the oppressor and the oppressor, they sail in the same boat. Next, afterwards, we have to proceed towards thinking about the text. Next question answers, yes. Why did such a large number of international leaders attend the inauguration, and what did it signify the triumph of? So why all these leaders, they were present there? The international leaders, the presence of the international leaders on that day when Nelson Mandela has to undertake the oath as the first Black South African president of president, their presence mark that they have uniformly accepted this newly formulated government, which is democratically, you can say, elected. It is not by any kind of force or biased methods, but democratically this government has been elected. And they also, of course, they also want to acknowledge their regard for this newly formulated government, because that Union Buildings of Pretoria, it was earlier the seat of only white supremacy. White supremacy means that is of white people only, which were the supreme power in South Africa at that time. But now with the, you can say, with the winning of Nelson Mandela, they have come at par completely to that of white supremacy, and it is just because of this reason that all the leaders of the world, they have very well accepted this abolishing of the policy of apartheid. This is the reason why they were present there. So the next question is, what does Mandela mean when he says he is simply the sum of all those African patriots who had gone before him? Yes, we have read in the chapter very well that Nelson Mandela, he has explained that on that day when he is taking oath, it feels him painstaking. He was deeply pained in his heart. Why? Because he was not able to thank all those leaders who have sacrificed their life and who were also not able to see what result their sacrifices has wrought on that day. So he wanted, he wanted that he should thank them, but it was not possible for him. So Nelson Mandela thought that actually whatever the result it has been brought on that day, this abolishing of the policy of apartheid, it was not an overnight, you can say, overnight success. No, it was the long-term success that has been started earlier in the first decade of the 20th century. And since then, the complete nation, or the all the great leaders like Oliver Tumba, Walter Sisler, Chief Lutley, Yusuf Dadu, you can take the names of 2 and 3. Okay, in your question, if you can't remember all. So they have undergone great oppression. They have undergone great oppression. It is because of these oppressions that it is just because of their sacrifices, whatever the result is there, it has been brought into the fate of South Africa. And today it is just because of this reason that this policy of apartheid, it has come to an end. So what I want to tell you here is that, what I want to deliver to you all people is that this chapter we cannot segregate it into, you can say, one topic. Okay, so ultimately when you are answering, you have to pick up all the chunks that has been described in the chapter. So because it is a sort of autobiography, so you have to pick up all the points that has been related. You have to mix and merge all the content in order to make an effective answer. So now coming up to the third question, would you agree that the depths of oppression create heights of character? And how does Mandela illustrate this? Can you add your own examples? This is your personal choice, but I will focus upon the question that how depths of oppression create greater heights of character. So Nelson Mandela, he has given the example of Oliver. He has given the example of Oliver Tambos, Walter Sisulu, Chief Littlus, okay, and Yusuf Dadus. And he thought that all these are extraordinary men of South Africa, as their courage, their wisdom, and their generosity. Okay, they have always been known for these qualities, just for their courage, for their wisdom, as well as for their generosity. And it is just because, and why they have attained this, you can say, greater heights of character. According to him, it is just because of the oppression. The more the person undergoes oppression, the more the person faces the difficulties in life, the more the person will, you can say, shine. As gold, when it is, you can say, heated in a furnace, it comes out to be a shining and invaluable metal. So similarly, a human being, when it passes through, you can say, when it passes through unwanted and, you can say, some challenging situations, that will create greater heights of character in a human being too. So this is how he said that greater heights of oppression that has been produced in this man by these people. Okay, it is because of the greater heights of, you can say, oppression that they have undergone. It is just because of this reason that these people, they have created greater heights of their character. And it is just because of this reason that these people have attained such heights of character. They have turned out to be greater men of greater men forever in the history of South Africa. Okay, so I hope that this answer is clear to you. Next question number 4 is, how did Mandela's understanding of freedom change with age and experience? So again, it is the same question that we have discussed in oral comprehension check question number 2. So I need not to repeat it again here, okay? Because if I will talk in a very short, that as a boy, he thought that to roast mealies in the open fields, or you can say just to run the broad backs of the bulls, and just to run in the fields is freedom. Later on, he thought that just to hang out with his friends, to enjoy with his friends, to spend a night and watch whatever he wants is freedom. Later on, he thought that in Johannesburg, when he has to fight for in order to achieve his job according to his potential, that was really very difficult for him. At that moment, he thought that his freedom, it is not being ripped away from him, that of his brothers and sisters. And after that, what he has realized that it is his hunger of freedom that he was yearning for. He wanted that kind of freedom to be a part of his life, and this freedom should be enjoyed not only by him but all his brothers and sisters. And after that, it is just because of this notion of freedom that has brought a transition in his character, that what happened, that he has joined African National Congress and become a part of the, you can say, he has become out a part of the revolution of a revolution against apartheid. Now, fifth question, how did Mandela's hunger for freedom change his life? So, as I told you, that at this point, when he has realized that his freedom, it has not been ripped away from him, not only from him, but for his brothers and sisters also. So, at that moment, what he has thought, he thought that there is a need to do something for in order to liberate them, liberate all the souls that are under the burden of this apartheid. So he joined African National Congress at that time. And at that time, there was a transition, complete transition. There was a complete change in his life. How? Because he loved his family a lot. He wanted to fulfill his obligations towards his family as a brother, as a good husband, as a good father, and as a good, you can say, son. But he was not, you can say, but he was not allowed to fulfill these obligations. Why he was not allowed to fulfill these obligations? Because he was forced to live a life of seclusion. Okay, he was forced to live a life of separation. So it is just because of this reason that he thought that his freedom is, it has been curtailed from him forever. Okay, so at this moment, so he was forced to live a life of separation. He was forced to live a life of, you can say, separation from his family. And how he was forced? Because from then onwards, he was transferred from a young man into a bold one. Okay, from a criminal, he has changed into a From a law-abiding attorney, he has changed into a criminal, and from a family-living man or a husband, he was turned out into a man without any home. So this is how his life has altogether changed after this, you can say, when he has joined this freedom of struggle. Okay, so I hope that these answers are very much clear to you, right? Next, afterwards, I'm going to discuss some extra questions of the chapter, because this chapter, it is quite deeper in meaning. You will have number of questions in your hand so that you can prepare this chapter. Okay, so now let us start the discussion of the extra questions. Now, first of all, I'm going to write on the board some extra questions that you can also have with you. So the first question is, why is 10th May 1944 important for South Africa? First question is, why is 10th May 1994 is important for South Africa? Now you can raise up your hands. Is important for South Africa. Why it is important for South Africa? Yes, just raise up your hand so that I can ask you. Yes, anybody can tell the answer? Yes, now. Bhavna can answer. Yes, Bhavna. Yes, Bhavna, you can answer the question. There is no response from her side. Anshika, can you answer?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Angida.
10th May,
Yes.
10th May 1994 was very important for South Africa. It was in very auspicious day for them, because it was the day when South Africa's first democratic non-racial government was there to form.
Very good. When first
And
non-racial government was formulated. Excellent. Then
and and this was able after a very long struggle.
Hmm.
And Nelson Mandela was considered as the first black president of the South Africa.
Yes, of course, because it was the result of the long-term struggle that the people of South Africa, they have undergone for you can say for almost 8 decades, and it is just because of this reason that this struggle started at the start or at the onset or in the first decade of the 20th century, and now at the end of this, now in the last decade of this 20th century, they have succeeded in causing an end to the policy of apartheid. So it is just because of this reason that this day was of great importance and was auspicious day for the people of South Africa. Next question. What does Mandela thank international leaders for? International leaders for. So why he thanked international leaders for? So why he thanked international leaders for? He thanked international leaders. Okay, 1 minute. Sadhana and Raghav. Okay. Yes, Raghav, you can answer. I have unmuted you. Unmute yourself.
Mandela thanked international leaders for their presence, as they all have come to pay respect to this newly formulated government,
Very
which
good.
was democratically elected, and a glorious achievement for human beings has been put
Yes,
to an
absolutely
end by
fine.
this struggle.
Because it was, you can say, democratically elected, and they all have come this, you can say, rainbow of world leaders. It has marked their presence because they have, you can say, they were also, you can say, fully accept as well as approve this newly formulated government which was democratically elected, and they have also, you can say, accepted the equality of the black people to that of the white people, right? So next question please. What ideas does he set out for the future of South Africa? What ideals does he set out, or does he set for the future of South Africa? For the future of South Africa. Akhilesh can answer. For the future of South Africa. Yes. What ideals does he has set out? Yes, Akhilesh. Unmute yourself. I have provided you an access.
Mandela set out the ideals of poverty alleviation.
Yes, he has, you can say, he has set up certain, you can say, great ideals in order to provide equality, okay, to provide freedom to his countrymen. He thought that his countrymen, they should never be deprived of any kind of, you can say, facility. They should never be under the bondage of poverty, deprivation, as well as suffering, moreover gender and any other kind of discrimination. So these are some of the ideals that he has set out for his, you can say, countrymen. Okay. So one more question that I need to discuss here is, what do the military generals do and how has their attitude changed and why? What do military generals do on the day of oath taking ceremony and how did their attitude change? Yes, how did their attitude change? Yes, how did their attitude change? It is just because the military generals, they have saluted, whose, you can say, chest they were bedecked with ribbons, they have saluted Nelson Mandela, because earlier Nelson Mandela, he has suffered great or brutal treatments at the hands of these, you can say, he has also, you can say, suffered imprisonment under the, you can say, under the rule of these, you can say, military generals. But now they are saluting him, as it means that they were showing their acceptance to this newly formulated government, and they also showed, this also displayed their loyalty towards this newly formulated government. Okay, so their attitude has been changed from a harsh to a, you can say, to a humble as well as an accepting one, accepting this newly formulated government, right? Okay, so with this, I think that enough has been discussed for this chapter, and I hope that this chapter is quite clear to you. Okay, so next, afterwards, in the next class, we are going to start with the next chapter. If you have any doubts now, you can raise up your hand so that I can take your doubts.